Hello, this is Todd Luck, and this is a review of the Shogun figures from ReAction. So this is a wave of ReAction figures that the packaging, the name on it is based after Shogun Warriors, which was a series of toys made of giant robots from Japan back in the 70s. And this particular wave is based on Mazinger Z, or in America, it was known as Transor Z in the 80s. And so this is actual figures from Mazinger Z, plus one of Great Mazinger on your far left. But this is Mazinger Z and some monsters that he fought, robot monsters in Mazinger Z and in Great Mazinger. And so we'll be taking a look at these figures. I'm going to open all of them except for Great Mazinger, because, Transor Z was an adaptation of Mazinger Z, so I don't have as much connection to Great Mazinger, so I will be leaving him mint on card, but you can still take a look at him. He comes with a little sword, which Great Mazinger used to fight monsters, and as you can see, nice looking figure, nice looking packaging. Show you the back here. And it shows the different monsters in the line, and the back is the same for all the figures. It's standard, and it's nice. It definitely captures the look of action figure packaging from that time period. I'm going to pull out another example here. Now, this is not a figure from the 80s, which is what this is modeled after, but this is a packaging modeled after the old Star Wars 1980s 3 3/4 inch packaging, and I think this replicates it almost perfectly. I don't have anything intact from that time period, but this just gives you an example of, this is what ReAction is kind of based off of, and kind of the look it's going for. And I think it really captures that old carded 3 3/4 inch figure that you would get in the 80s. So I think the packaging is just outstanding on these figures, and that is why we must destroy it. So unfortunately, along with looking like 80s packaging, it is sealed like 80s packaging. So you have to open the packaging in a way that is not going to be resealable. So I'm going to use my old school opening skills and open these one at a time. We'll take a look at each of these figures individually as kind of little mini reviews. We'll begin with this one, and I'm not quite sure how to pronounce it, Rokuran Q9. This is one of those really cool figures, because the other figures I'm going to show you have an absolute reason to be in this wave. This is just a random monster of the week, or monster of the episode, because I think they were daily episodes. But this was just a random monster that someone thought was cool that they made a figure of, and that is amazing. And it just shows the kind of potential, if they'd been able to keep going past this one wave, all the different cool looking monsters from Mazinger Z they could have made. This was a particularly freaky monster. His heads would come off and he could turn invisible, and there's a scene where he holds up the female hero of the series, Jessica, or Sayaka Yumi in Mazinger Z, and he's holding her up by her nightgown. He snuck into her room somehow, this giant monster head, and he's invisible, and he's holding her up in the air and stuff. It's a really freaky sort of episode, and it's a really cool monster. So I'm glad they picked this one. We are going to be trying to use my old school opening skills to open this without damaging the packaging too much. I'm going to try to go from the bottom, and we will see if I can do this without damaging the packaging too much, because the artwork is over the seal. So come on. All right. This is not easy, kids. So the problem I'm having is I'm actually separating the front of this packaging from the card, and I want to, okay, here we go. I've made, yeah, I want just a little bit of tear so I can separate. Okay, here we go. And, okay. So, yeah, okay, it's not that bad. Okay, the damage done is not that bad. And so to take a look at this super freaky looking figure, his head or heads do rotate, so you can turn them all the way around. You can lift his arms, and his legs. His legs will go up. This is about as far as they go. So, oh, he does have the little holes. So if you have figure stands for 3 3/4 inch figures, so he can sit if you need a giant robot monster to sit. And so that's his articulation. He's got 5 points, just like you would expect from 3 3/4 inch figure from the 80s. And as you can see, there is a nice bit of detail on him. You know, it's not kind of a modern level of detail, but honestly, this is just perfect for these kinds of characters because it was a very simplistic kind of design in the 70s. It was very sleek, very clean kind of robot design that was in the show, and I think this type of figure is just absolutely perfect for it. So I think this is just a really, really great rendition of this robot monster. All right, so next up is Doublus M2, which is one of the OG mechanical monsters that fought Mazinger Z or Transor Z. If you watch the opening of the shows with the theme song and everything, he is in every episode of that series in the show opening. So this is a monster that has gotten numerous figures. He's been reimagined many times in other Mazinger Z series, or other Mazinger series, I guess I should say. And so this is a pretty natural choice, and it's kind of cool that there is an affordable version of him because a lot of the figures of him are very, very expensive. So this is kind of a cool alternative to your more expensive figures. And so we're going to try from the corner this time and hope we do well. All right, and the packaging keeps wanting to crinkle when I tear it. Okay, come on, just a little bit more, and just a little bit more, and there we go. And, oh, I'm getting better at this. That is not bad. Well, that's not bad. It's not bad. All right. And so this captures the simplistic design of the 70s monster really well, and just some nice touches like these little details on the legs. As far as articulation goes, let's see, arms move, of course. Legs will move, very similar to what we saw with the other figure. And so my big question, my big $1 million question, do both heads move? Yes. Yes, both heads will rotate. Very, very cool. Very, very cool. Very cool. I like this. This is, you know, having seen him on every opening of Transor Z, it's just really, really awesome to actually have him in action figure form. And speaking of OG Mazinger Z monsters that were in the opening of the show, we have a rhotic K7. Same story as the last figure. He has been reimagined numerous times throughout the franchise. He has several different figures, but a lot of them are really expensive, so let's open this one up. Love this packaging, love this figure. Let's just see what we can do here. And there we go. And not too shabby on the damage. All right. So my man's Garuda here. Let's see. This comes actually stuck to him, but you can just peel this off and you have his weapon. So first of all, let's just take a look at the design of this sucker. Just classic, beautifully done, captures the simplicity and the detail just beautifully. The horns or spikes on his head are nice and shiny. Now in the anime, he is going to take these out of his head and he is going to use them as weapons. So he'll take them out of his head, so he'll just have a skull, you know, and he'll have these two blades, you know, in his hands. So in the figure, they basically give you one of the blades and you can put it in his hand with maybe a little bit of effort. Yeah, oh, okay, there we go. And he holds it very, very well. And so here is his blade. Now, here's where, you know, I think people can haggle a little bit. And I'm just going to test the articulation just to show you it's identical to the others as I'm talking. So the reason why it's done this way is that I believe this is how they say it probably would have been done in the 80s. You didn't necessarily go for show accuracy, you know, and weapons and action features were often very crude. And I agree with that. And yeah, considering the size of his head, that may be a very valid argument because there wouldn't be a lot of room in here to put something that could pull out. And of course, it would be, you know, kind of tiny compared to his hand. So I can see where they're going with this. But, you know, I will say that there were also, say, lightsabers that you could put through characters' hands for the old Star Wars figures. There were definitely some attempts at action features on figures this size, but I can definitely see their argument that, you know, probably it would have been something like this where you would have gotten, you know, an inaccurate attempt to kind of simulate him holding a weapon, even though, you know, both of his blades are still in his head. That being said, it still looks really cool, and honestly, if you haven't watched the anime, you probably wouldn't notice that at all, and it would just look like there's this really cool looking skull guy with a damn scythe about to kill some people. So I think it's pretty cool. I wish he could pull out the blades, but you know, I again fully understand why they did it like this, and I think it's pretty cool. And now for the big guy himself, Mazinger Z, or as I like to call him, Transor Z. So let's open up the mightiest of machines, and hopefully I'm not going to completely destroy the packaging. I've been having fairly good luck so far. And there we go, and the damage is not bad. Not bad if I do say so myself. I will say it is painful to open these, but I think my old school opening skills have pulled through. And here is Mazinger Z, or Transor Z. The face sculpt is a little bit crude, and I think, again, the argument, the same thing with Garato's blades, is that, you know, sculpting in the 80s was very crude, but it seems kind of odd compared to the high quality sculpts that we got on the others. Maybe the argument is that, you know, this has paint detail or this is more detailed sculpt, and I can kind of see that argument. It is trying to capture kind of that crudeness of the 80s, and I would say it does it very well, but again, those other figures were just done so perfectly, it's just kind of weird to see him be a little more crude than the others. It's still a good rendition of Mazinger Z. Not necessarily from the side, but from the front. And, you know, not necessarily, you know, really close up. But, you know, you're probably not going to be looking at this guy terribly close because he is very small. But as far as, what they're going for, again, a crude 80s figure of Mazinger Z, I think this definitely does the trick. And I will also note another bit of that crudeness is that he has the iron cutters coming out of his arms, which is okay. Because, I mean, honestly, if you get a higher end figure, that's the way they're going to be. They're going to be attached to Mazinger Z. Normally the iron cutters will come out when he launches his fist, and then these blades will come out and they'll, slice monsters and all that good stuff. But here's the thing, they should be metallic colored, and so they're not, because again, they're going for that kind of crude, simplistic 1980s feel. Maybe a little too crude. Again, the others were so darn good that it's a little jarring when you get to here and you've got stuff like this. But honestly, it is kind of cool in that kind of crude 80s way, because like from this angle, I barely notice him. It looks like he doesn't have the iron cutters at all, but if I turn him to the side, all of a sudden, boom, he's got iron cutters. So there's something kind of interesting about that. It's pretty good. Again, I probably would have preferred it to be to them taking a little more artistic license with the crudeness of it, but it's still a very good Mazinger Z 3 3/4 inch figure. And here they all are together. And this is one of the reasons I got this set, was just to see Tranzor Z with the monsters in the series. And I gotta say, it is pretty freaking amazing to see all these different mechanical robots together. And I think, I would have to go back and do like a frame for frame analysis to see, if they got the heights exactly right. But this seems pretty good to me. This seems like, this is about the height that all these monsters should be in comparison to each other. And so here they are with some figures from Japan. These are made on a 4-inch scale. Aphrodite A here is about 4 inches tall, and Bobo Bot, or Boss Borat as he's known in Japan, is shorter because he is, a shorter robot. Looking at these figures in the packaging compared to the Japanese figures, I thought they'd be passable, and I think I'm pretty correct on him being passable with these two. He's probably a little skinnier than he needs to be because he is made on a smaller scale. The other two, it's just kind of hard for me because I know how tall these figures should be. I know Aphrodite A should be a little shorter than the rest of them, and Bobo Bot should be shorter than all of them because he's just a short, kind of wide robot. Mazinger Z, I think he definitely looks a little short. I think even if you didn't know how tall these robots are supposed to be, I mean, I think it's probably obvious that the hero probably needs to be taller than he is in comparison to his sidekicks here. That being said, I'll say from this angle, it's not too bad as far as, what it looks like together, but I will say that these two are just so super screen accurate, as these are also super screen accurate. They're just a little skinnier than these guys because they're on a smaller scale. But this guy just kind of sticks out because he is more crude, and he especially sticks out if you do this. So it's just kind of weird to have like my Mazinger Z here just stick out as being just kind of crude and not screen accurate. And another big reason I got these is I have the 3 3/4 inch scale buildings from the Godzilla Pack of Destruction figures that came out a few years ago. And of course, I wanted to see how they looked with those buildings, and I gotta say, pretty freaking awesome. Okay, now I'm happy with this set. I wish I had more of these buildings, but unfortunately, they are very expensive now. But I gotta say that, the few I have look really great with these figures. So if you do have them, and you want to put your ReAction Mazinger Z figures with them, I gotta say, it looks pretty dang cool. And here they are with a couple of kaiju figures that I have on the 3 3/4 inch scale, and they look pretty darn cool. So again, I'm very impressed with the way the monsters turned out. I think they look great. And I really wish there had been more monsters. I wish there had been figures of Bobobot and Aphrodite A put in this series so we could have all the heroes. But unfortunately, that didn't happen. I would say the crudeness of Mazinger Z is my only real gripe here. But again, for some people, that's going to be a draw. That's what they want, is for the figure to look crude like the 80s. And I guess they succeed with that. But again, it's just a little jarring compared to how good the other figures in this line look. But overall, I am happy with this series. I will say, if you're looking for a show accurate Mazinger Z roughly on this scale, the one that is from the same series as the Aphrodite and Bobobot I was showing you is a good way to go. I have reviews of those figures, and if you're looking for it, it's on eBay, and it's something like Sofubi Mecha Go Nagi figure or something like that. But it came in a blind box, but there's sellers on eBay who are selling those figures. They'll set you back about 30 bucks, which is about what these are probably going to set you back at. They're usually sold as a set, so that's why I got all these. It was sold as a set, and I'm very happy I did. It's just really, really cool to have these Mazinger Z monsters in my collection that I can pose with my little buildings here. So that is awesome. This is the last thing I have on hand to open, but who knows, I may buy some other stuff in the future of Mazinger Z. But right now, this is the last thing I have on hand to review. I have done reviews of all kinds of Mazinger Z figures on different scales and from different lines, so please check that out if you're interested, as well as a review of Transor Z, the American adaptation of Mazinger Z that ran in the 80s. Please check that out. Like and subscribe for more videos, and until next time, rocket punch!